Welcome, and of course, we'll start with our bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
I cannot help but sigh. So we had Shlach Lecha last week, and with that bit of tragedy, right? Put yourself in Moses' position and the tsuris he is having. And now and of course, it was alleviated as you move into the Parsha with these lovely halachot, right? Which just sort of shows you how studying Torah law can be just satisfying and regenerating and consoling, because it starts off right after they're being told that they're going to have to wander 40 years in the wilderness. There's a mitzvah that says, when you get to the land of Israel, whatever, it wasn't called Israel at the time, but when you get to the land, etc. So there's some mitzvot hatluyot ba'aretz that are right there, and there are laws concerning the obeisans and stuff, and of course we have the wonderful parsha of Tzitzit in this particular in Shlach Lecha. So all that kind of stuff I feel comes to kind of make up for the pain of the incident of the spies. However, we're now on to cousin Korach. Nothing like Family Feud. And so we're going to dive right into that. And that is another bit of tragedy that is going to have terrible consequences. And it isn't going to just be the Levites. There's a statement that says, Oy la Rasha, Oy l'shcheino, woe to the wicked, woe to his neighbor, because we've got Datan and Abiram, who are from the tribe, I believe, of Reuven. And we'll see where that, and of course, when you look at how the camp was set up, you realize that they were neighbors. So here we are, Vayikach Korach. Vayikach Korach. There are actually two ways that Rashi's going to go in terms of trying to take this interesting expression. Literally, it means Korach took, but it doesn't give you an object of what he took. To take is usually take what? It's a transitive verb, but there's no object here that I can remember. So we translate it as betook himself. Korach, son of Yitzhar, son of Kahat. Now, Kahat was the same grandfather of Moses as Korach's. So they were cousins. Kahat had these various children. Korach was the son of Yitzhar. Moses was the son of Amram. They were all, Amram and Yitzhar were sons of Kahat. So it's cousin Korach. So son of Kahat, ben Levi, son of Levi. V'Datan and Aviram, bnei Eliav. So Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav, v'On ben Pelet, and On, son of Pelet, bnei Reuven, sons of Reuven. So the Reuvenites, these few families, joined with Korach. And we're going to see, okay, we'll see what happens there. That's interesting. I may have to restart that. We'll see. It's doing all kinds of interesting things. Right, so here we go. Rashi makes a general comment. Parsha zo yafa nidreshet. This parsha is explained beautifully by Midrash Rabbi Tanchuma, in the Midrash called the Tanchuma. And that is extant, by the way. The Tanchuma exists. There are actually two versions of it. There's a version of the Tanchuma that was, quote, quote, discovered by Martin Buber's father, and is also published as, I think he called it Tanchuma HaKadum, the early recension of the Tanchuma. Anyway, that just a little bit of extra information. Vayikach Korach. So now he gets into trying to explain these itself. Lakach et atzmo. He took himself. So he betook himself. Letzad acher, so he betook himself to a different side. Lihiyot nechlak mitoch ha'edah, to separate himself from the midst of the community. Le'orer al hakahuna, to make a protest regarding the priesthood, to protest the priesthood. In California, we'd say he wanted a recall. Seems like they were living in that time. There seems to be a number of recalls going on. Yes.
In the note that I have, it specifically says regarding the appointment of Aaron.
Yes, that is the specific explanation. So but he doesn't stop right there. And by the way, it's so interesting that he uses the first example I can think of a populist argument. Vezehu, and Rashi goes on to say, Vezehu shetirgem. This is the way Onkelos interpreted, translated this word Onkelos, right? Onkelos interpreted. Ve'it palag, that's the Aramaic word that Onkelos uses, which means to secede. Nechalak mishar ha'edah. He separated himself, he seceded himself from the rest of the community. Lihitchazek b'machloket, to maintain a dissension.
Lahachazik.
Yes, sorry, lahachazik. Did I say something else?
You said lahitchazek.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, lahachzik, to maintain. Yes, thank you. B'machloket, in dissension. V'chein, and likewise, Eov in Job chapter 15. Ma yikachacha libcha, how your heart takes you, right? Takes you. Lokech otcha, takes you, lahafligcha misha'ar b'nei adam, to consider yourself different from the rest of humanity. So there's that example of taking this word kach in that sense. And now Rashi goes in a different direction. Davar acher, a different interpretation. Vayikach Korach. So we're going to have a different interpretation on these two words. Mashach, he drew Rashi Sanhedraot, the heads of the courts, Shebahem, let me make sure. Shebahem. So Sanhedraot Shebahem, from the courts among them, bidvarim, using words. And we've had that expression too, where it's kach dvarim. So in a way, it's to persuade. That's what the word means. To use words to get a person. So to persuade them. Kamosh Ne'emar, in another example, in Bamidbar Kaf, in Numbers chapter 20, it says, Kach et Aharon. I believe this is where he's telling him he's going to pass away. So he had to persuade Aaron to do these various things in preparation for Aaron's demise. Another example, this is one that we use in reference to Yom Kippur, Shabbat Shuvah, Kchu imachem dvarim. Take for yourselves, or take with you, words. In other words, to express regret and to be able to do tshuva. Ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi. Okay, it says, son of Yitzhar, son of Kahat, son of Levi. V'lo hiskir ben Yaakov. And he stops, the genealogy stops. He doesn't mention Jacob. Shebikesh rachamim al atzmo. Jacob foresaw this happening. And so Jacob sought mercy on himself. Shelo yizaker shmo, that his name should not be mentioned al machloktam, regarding their dispute. This, in fact, dispute, I think, is a kind word to use. The fact is, it's mutiny. That's what it is. Shne'emar, as it says, regarding when Jacob is going to bless his sons, and he's talking about Levi and Shimon, he says, Uvekahalt lam al techad kvodi, and in the assembly may my honor not be united. Vehechan niskar shmo shel Korach, and where is Korach's name mentioned? Behityachsam al haducham. So Korach's name is mentioned regarding Jacob when their genealogy is given regarding the Duchan. The Duchan was the platform, it means a platform on which the Levites, the Levitical choirs would sing as the sacrifices, as the Kohanim were performing their rites. B'divrei hayamim, in the book of Chronicles, Shine'emar, as it says, and this is Divrei hayamim Aleph.
That's where we get duchening.
Yes, standing on the platform. The book of Chronicles 1, the first book of Chronicles, there are two of them. Chapter 6, here it goes. Ben Aviasaph, son of Aviasaph, Ben Korach, who's the son of Korach, Ben Yitzhar, who's the son of Yitzhar, Ben Kahat, who's the son of Kahat, son of Levi, Ben Yisrael. There we have it. So what's interesting, what's so, and kind of cool, I have to tell you, is the fact that despite the fact that Korach really is such a terrible example of this mutiny going on, which is going to cause a lot of problems, his sons did not apparently identify with their father. And in fact, in the book of Psalms, they are mentioned, there are a number of Psalms that are attributed to the sons of Korach, and Aviasaph is one of those who's mentioned. And so they have a separate fate than their father. They did not choose to identify with what he did. Here we go, Vedatan and Aviram. And this is from the Tanchuma that Rashi's mentioned. Bishvil Shahaya Shevet Reuven, because the tribe of Reuven, Sharui Bechaniatam Temimah, they were placed when they were encamped on the south side. Shekain the Kahat, which was similar to Kahat Uvanav and his sons, Achonim Temimah. So remember, there were these concentric squares around the tent of meeting, and the Levites were on the north, south, and west side of the tent. On the east side of the tent were Moses and Aaron and their children, their families, and the family of Kahat was on the south side, and so was the tribe of Reuben. Nishtatfu im Korach, he says, and on account of that, they participated with Korach b'machlokto, in his dispute. Oy l'rasha, oy l'shcheno. Woe to the wicked, woe to his neighbor. Now we get down to, this is so interesting, right? Why did this happen? What was the psychology going on here that led to Korach to decide to mutiny? So you have to know a little bit of genealogy here. So I'm going to need one of you to mute, please. Ra'a Korach lachalok im Moshe. So for what reason did Korach, what did he see that he decided to mutiny against Moses? Nitkane al nesioto shel Elitzaphan ben Uziel. He was jealous on the promotion of Elitzaphan ben Uziel, who's another cousin, right? Sheminehu Moshe Nasi al Bnei Kahat, whom Moses appointed as the Nasi. You want to translate it as the president? Prince, forgive me. It's also the word for president in Hebrew. The prince of the children of Kahat, al Pia Debur, and Moses, of course, did that by, at God's command. It wasn't something that Moses did by himself. So he did that at God's command, but there's going to be a problem. So we'll see. Amar Korach. So Korach thought to himself, Achi Abba, my father's brother, Arba'a, Ache Abba, Arba'a Hayu. My father had four sons, four brothers. Okay, well, there were four brothers. Shene'emar, as it says, and here we go, Ubnei Kahat, etc. Here we go. So it tells you the names in chapter 6 of Exodus. Amram Habachor. Amram was the firstborn. Natlu Shnei Banav Gedula Ech. Okay, so his two sons of the firstborn of that first son, in other words, the grandchildren of Amram, who was the Bachor, took the highest position. Echad Melech, one took the position of king, meaning, of course, Moses. Ve'echad Kohen Gadol, and the other one took the position of high priest.
Right, the sons of Amram.
Correct, exactly. Mi ra'oi litol et hasheni lo ani. So he says, and then the next in line, the next high position of high honor, who would be entitled to the next position? Lo ani, me. Wouldn't it be me? Shani ben Yitzhar, because I'm the son of Yitzhar, Shehu Sheni la Amram, because he was second born to Amram. Vahu mana nasi, and Moses goes and appoints as prince, as head, et ben achiv hakatan. He goes and appoints the son of his youngest brother, Mikulam, hakatan Mikulam. He was the juniorest of all of them. Hareini cholek alav, I am going to mutiny against him, umabatel et varav, and I'm going to basically nullify everything he says. Going to make it of no value. Asa, so what did he do? Amad v'kines reish nun rashi sanhedraot. So what he did was he stood up and he gathered together 250 heads of Sanhedraot. Rovan, most of them, Mishevet Reuven, from the tribe of Reuben. Shchenav, his neighbors. Vehem Elitzur ben Shteur, and Rashi identifies them for us. Elitzur ben Shteur, the Chaverav and his companions, Ukayotzebo, and likewise. Shene'emar, as it says, Nisi'e Eda Kri'e Moed. And it's going to discuss this in a little bit. It says, heads of the community who were, literally it means called for appointment. So I think it means who were appointed heads of the community. Ulahalan, and later on, who Omer, it says, B'midbar Aleph, in chapter 1 of Numbers, Ele Kri'e Ha'edah, these are the elect of the community, V'hilbishan Talitot Shekulan Tchelet. And he made them he dressed them with cloaks that were completely tchelet, the blue, right from the tzitzit. So this is how he wanted to make a mockery of Moses and the laws that Moses was bringing to the Israelites. Ba'u va'amdu lefnei Moshe, they came and they stood before Moses. Amru, they said to him, they said to him, Talit shekula shel tchelet, chayevet betzitzit or petura. So they said to him, if a talit is colored blue, right, does it require tzitzit or is it exempt from tzitzit, from the fringes? Amar lahem, so he said to them, Moses said to them, chayevet. He said to them, no, it's still obligated to have tzitzit. Hitchilu l'sachek alav. They began to mock him. They began to laugh at him. Efshar talit, they said, is it possible that talit shel min acher, that when it comes to a talit of a different kind, chut echad shel tchelet potra, that one thread of blue exempts it, that or fulfills any further need to put tzitzis on it, right? That the regular tzitzis that we have with a thread of blue. Zo shekulat chelet, but one that is completely blue, lo tiftor et atzma, should it not in fact render itself exempt from any further tzitzit? If the idea is to add a fringe with a blue thread in order to exempt or to fulfill the mitzvah of a talit that isn't blue and one that is blue. So this is the kind of argumentation they were making. They gave other examples as well of trying to undermine the logic of the laws. You know, how logical this is. I mean, there is a logic to it. I don't think you'd be convinced unless you wanted to be convinced. Yep. Sorry. Did one of you want to say a little something?
Well,
I
we're
do.
gonna get- Oh, sorry, go ahead,
Go
Harlan.
ahead. No, you go ahead, Sherbeth.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say that we're gonna get to the place where Korach says, Kol Haidak Kedoshim, right?
Yes, that's the populist argument.
Right, so in other words, he's gonna claim everybody's holy, we're all the same, at the same level of holiness. Why are you bossing us around
Correct.
to Moshe?
Correct.
And the visual image of that is like a shawl that's all the same. It's all equally
Yes.
tchelet.
Yes.
It's all
indeed.
got this holy color, and it certainly doesn't need one thread to stand out and
I
be.
love it. Yes, I think.
I really love that. That's just gonna nullify what I was gonna say because this is a better way to look at it.
But it's totally, you've got it. You nailed it. Sure.
Well, I got it from Aviva Zornberg, I have to say. It wasn't my idea.
Well,
Makes
regardless,
sense.
that's her brilliance, right?
Yeah.
And I actually think I had read, and I just wasn't able to recollect it or come across that. Yes, it's really, she sees those literary connections. Yes, this is the Midrash seeing a connection from a literary standpoint to the whole populist argument of Korach. Yes.
Well, I see,
I know, and I remember the second. It's exactly the same kind of argument. You're absolutely right, Sherbeth, and Avina, of course, has nailed it. The other example they gives is if you have a room filled with Sifrei Torah, does it require a mezuzah? Right. So you're right. I mean, that's exactly what they're trying to aim at. Right, and of course it does require mezuzah, and it's exactly the same thing. Here you've got all these holy books that are in the room, right? Why does it need a mezuzah? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I think her spin is more psychological than literary. In other words, maybe literary, but with a psychological theme running through all of it, you know, like related to relations and jealousies and feelings and things like that.
Right, which I see.
How would somebody feel? And
yes, absolutely. I think there's a very close connection.
I don't understand why God said on the talus, he already told us that the fringe of blue. He already told us what the talus should be like,
Yes.
the citrus and everything. He told us in one of the parshas. I don't understand this whole thing. Kona, whatever his name is, why did his brothers say, don't do what you're going to do? Kona was wanting power. That's all he wanted. He didn't care about the people. He just wanted to be powerful. Now, God said the Levites are my people. They could take care of the ark, you know, and they were, what did they want more than that? They were privileged to take care of the ark, all the utensils and everything, to disassemble it and assemble it. They were lucky. The other Israelites didn't do that. They had everything. Why does Korach want to do all of this against Moses? Besides, Moses wasn't the leader. God, through Moses said, God tells me what to do. I am not doing it because I'm doing it. God helps me to do it. I don't understand the whole thing.
Okay, so Harlan, of course, you are nailing again some of the issues going on. So the very fact that Korach is doing that is he is undermining that Moses's prophecy. He's saying basically that Moses did it for himself. Gosh, he's politicizing it. What do you know? Of course, it's this little story just goes to prove how human nature hasn't changed at all in how many thousand years. It's the same sort of thing, okay? And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I had read a point that the French Revolution was basically engineered by the bourgeoisie, and the bourgeoisie were not the poor classes. They were somewhat of the entitled classes. And generally speaking, Harlan, that is the way human nature goes. That when you've had a taste of something good, it's never enough. You want to have more, unless you've trained yourself. And so, yes. And in fact, Moses actually says this to Korach. He says, isn't it enough that God has singled out the Levites? We're going to get to it in like a verse or two.
There's one little tiny Rashi left
Okay, let's
that
take.
we almost have time for.
Okay, all right. So let's go to us. B'nai Reuven, sons of Reuven, Datan va'abiram ve'on ben Pelet. So the reason why he's saying that is because it is honestly a little bit ambiguous. Because this V'datan va'arim b'nai Eliav, I guess, could have been sons of Levi as well. Right, could have been Levites somewhere in all that, and that there might have been somebody by the name of Eliav who was a lower, who was a further descendant. But that's why he says, "V'on bin Pelet pnei Reuven," that all these guys, the three of them, were all children, were all children of, or descendants of Reuben, or were Reubenites, if you want to put it that way. All right, we will stop here. But Harlan, you're right. That's human nature, and we have to be on the lookout for it. Excuse me. I'm sorry. That's not what I want. I want this. If I can get it. There we are. Okay. We still, yeah. There we go. Well, we got through verse 1. That's good. There we are. I'm going to stop the share and also stop the recording and say farewell to those who were watching this recording, listening.